Cheryl Lynch here again, and I'm on to page 2 of my little embellished fiber book. So we've been working with this book about my trip to Holland, a bike and barge, and we've already done a page where we used a photograph to make an applique. Now today we're going to be doing some stuff with photos and adding some words to our block. So the significant thing, we went to Holland to see the tulips. And we were told we should come early in April so that we would see the tulips in the fields, because that's where it's supposed to be magnificent. Unfortunately, it was a little on the chilly side and there were not that many tulips in the field, but we ended up at Keukenhof Gardens, which is their huge botanical gardens, and we got to see a lot of tulips there. So I decided that I needed a page about the tulips. And let me show you the page before I start so you can see where I'm going. This is the tulip page. Okay. And we're going to start. I started by, the first thing I always tell you is first I quilt my background. So I take a piece of batting and the backing fabric. Now this happened to be fabric that I bought while I was in Holland. And I quilt it. And this time, this is the whole entire backing, and I just did some channel quilting, just to give it some dimension and to hold it down. I like that channel quilting a lot, and it doesn't have to be evenly spaced, they don't have to be parallel, it's just a fun, nice little quilting background. So this was my background, and I had a lot of stuff I wanted to squeeze in. So the first thing I wanted to add were tulips. So I printed a photograph of mine, and I blew it up so that the tulips were a size that I was happy with. And again, you need to just highlight the most basic part of the design so that you can see what it is. So on the tulips, I drew around them in black Sharpie marker so I could see through them with a fusible web, and I tried to make the tulips into as few pieces as I can. Now this was my working drawing, and I ended up, this tulip here had 5 pieces to it. When I actually made the fusible applique, I combined these 2 sections and these 2 sections, so it ended up having 3 pieces, and this had 3 pieces. And when you do the fusible web, you have to flip it if you want it to be the same direction that it is on your photograph. So by going around it with the Sharpie marker, I can also see from the back. So you can use a light box, or you can use a window, or you can put Sharpie marker on it, or black felt tip marker. It doesn't have to be a Sharpie, and so you can see through the back. So this was the piece I used, and I made a whole bunch of tulips. Now before I put the tulip on my piece, I pre-assembled them. These are all the different, I had a whole bunch of pieces, and I pre-assembled them by laying them over. I didn't press it, but you see this one has all 5 pieces, and I think that one really wasn't very successful. And there's one. So I laid them together, and then you can fuse them all together, but be careful not to do it on your ironing board, otherwise it will stick to your ironing board. You can either use an applique pressing sheet, or you can use a piece of parchment paper. Parchment paper is my most favorite thing, because you run out, you buy more, you lose it, you buy more, and you can buy it either in a craft store, a baking store, I think they have them in supermarkets. So parchment paper is a very good thing. So I pre-assembled my tulips and then laid them out on my backing. Let's see, I did 3 tulips. And I made a whole bunch of leaves going this way and that way. And I made some stems curving to the right and curving to the left. And that's how I did my tulips. And I try to stitch them from the back to the front. So I would lay them out, and first I would do the leaves. I'd lift this off, or pin this a little bit in place so I wouldn't lose my place mark. And there were the tulips. Now on that, I also wanted to add about the Keukenhof Gardens. So I had a couple of photos that I really liked. There's one of my husband and me, and here I am being a real tourist. They had this huge, huge wooden shoe, and there I am sitting in the wooden shoe. So I wanted to add these two photos, and to give them a little dimension, I did backing for them, almost like you would do in a scrapbook kind of thing. So I printed the photos on special fabric that's been treated for printing in your computer, and then put fusible web on the back of them. So that was my back pieces. And then for the words in this one, here's the piece, I used those foam letters that I was talking about when I was sharing my books. So the foam letters are very cool. They come in many, many different fonts, and I'll just share a few of them with you. So this is a font that has little dots at the end. They come in different sizes. Here's a very curly Q font. Now, they come in different colors, and I normally don't do quilts in like little Easter colors, so I normally want to make them a different color, and you can spray paint them. So these letters I spray painted with gold spray paint, and on my piece I spray painted them with white spray paint. So this way I get a more uniform look. So I took those letters, and the one thing that I really like about them is most of them have a paper backing, and you can peel off that paper backing, and they're sticky. So you can place them on your fabric. Well, let me place them on this. Oh, can you hear that? You can place them on your fabric. And then what I do is I whip stitch them in place. So you can lay them out so that they're nicely spaced. They'll stay kind of in place, and then you can stitch down your letters. So I want to share with you the fabric that you print on that's pre-treated for printing with your computer is very, very expensive. We're talking upwards of $3 a sheet, the kind that I like the best. So I have a little trick because I'm thrifty, and I think as quilters we're all thrifty. So when you cut out your photos, you want to save the fabric. And I save every single little scrap there is, even pieces this size. And what I'll do is if I need something printed that's small, I will first print it on a piece of paper. And then I will take a little spray adhesive, and I'm not partial to any brand, but it should be a repositionable spray adhesive. You don't want permanent. Spray the back of my fabric. Do you see how this is shiny? And this is the fabric. So I'll spray the shiny side with the adhesive, lay it right over what I just printed, and then I'll put it through the printer again. And it will print it exactly where it printed before, which this time it will be right on top of my fabric. So that's a great tip for helping to extend using your expensive pre-treated fabric. And I want to show you this. This has a, all of them have something on the back of them to make them stiff to go through the printer. This one has a clear plastic backing. So when you're cutting out places where you have printed, try to leave the backing on the pieces that haven't been printed yet. So there I go. I fused my pieces on, stitched around. I like to stitch around everything just to make sure it stays in place. And there's my tulip block, and there it is in my book.